The show with. G'day everyone, welcome to the mid-season draft watch along with me, the Palman. I've got a very special guest. I've got Big Paolo. How are you doing, mate?
I'm very well, Pommy. I'm excited to do this again with you. Last year we did it, and the ratings it was a ratings bonanza between you and I last year, where we drafted young Jordan Boyd and Alex Murkov, and they're both still on the list and playing good footy down at VFL level. So they've both been pretty good with regards to the services that they've given the club at the moment, and hopefully we can find two more.
Well, I mean, hopefully we can. For those who want to watch along with us, you can if you go on the AFL app. It is AFL Live. I'm not too sure if it's through the website as well. It may be. But if you don't have access to that, we've got you covered because we've got some very sexy little pom things for you. So the first pick for Carlton is in the pick 13. And we're expected to take this gentleman, Mr. Samuel Durden.
Yes.
You'll have these graphics popping up for every player, though.
Mate, you've outdone yourself here. I know you often love to surprise us all with graphs and names and your analytics, but I think this is some of your best work, just quietly.
Well, I mean, it is as the guys come in. It's one of them hard things, like it would be easier if the AFL, because this is probably going to be about an hour. So it would be nice if the AFL just let me pick the players for them, just speed it up.
That'd be great. Yeah, exactly. We wouldn't have to wait 10 hours for the players to be picked. So hopefully it's a speedy process, and we can don the young lads in their navy blue Guernseys. Actually, this is probably last year it was a bit of a. You know what? I think it was. Remember when we did this and we thought, oh God, here we go. But I'm actually excited for this one because we're up and about.
Well, I mean, yeah, and you'd say as well this year as well, there's probably a bit more relevance to the mid-season draft, isn't there not?
Yes.
Because we've actually got some actual injuries and some actual holes, where last year it was kind of more speculative, wasn't it, from the club? The list was kind of there. Teague was on his way out, and it was just, they basically just threw darts for a banter, really.
Yeah, exactly right. Whereas, as you said, this one is the players that are coming in. We're probably going to need, I'd say, in the next couple of weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if the two blokes we pick up tonight just come straight in. Maybe not next week, but the week after potentially.
Mate, Spawn, Pommy Luke, swoop Luke's in chat in a shirt.
Pommy in a shirt.
Mate, yeah, do you know what I mean? I only wear a shirt when I'm at work or court or live.
What's better, that or me in a beanie?
Right, there's nothing more iconic. Lek Dog in chat, he wants Durden, Balladen, or Dirksen. Well, I mean, let's talk about while they mess about, they're just showing us blank screens. One of the most popular players in this draft and been in the papers a lot today is the legend that is Jai Cully, Langwarren legend, Dandenong Stingrays. Probably the best player in the draft. Interesting little fact about Jai. Didn't get picked up last year, was playing in the forward line, but shown real acumen in improving his game. Now he's gone full-time midfield. Actually did 100 ground ball gets a day with his family when he was undrafted because that was one of the knocks on him. So this guy has really been, really focused his energies on trying to get back in.
That's absolute commitment. And he's the one who's touted to go with the number one pick, isn't he? So it looks likely that West Coast are probably going to pick him up. So, look, it's funny too. And I think this is also, he could be a prime case of, I know the AFL are talking about, and this is an interesting thing for the chat as well, is that the AFL are looking to push, and I think it's eventually going to come in where I think they're going to push the draft age to being a little bit older. I don't know if it's going to come in within the next maybe 2 to 3 years, but I think it's an area that they're going to focus on. And I think this mid-season draft is definitely an area that clubs need to start focusing on as well, because you see the bolters, so sometimes these kids just aren't ready, 18, 19 years old. They're studying, they've got their eyes on school, they've got their eyes on degrees, and they can't focus on their footy 110%. Whereas when they've finished up all their schoolwork, they can properly focus on football. And we see these bolters like Jai Cully. So look, he looks a pretty good footballer from what I've seen. I think he played last week or the week before in a was it a country versus something game? I think
they have the Colgate Next Generation.
Yeah, and he looked, mate. I mean, he's there's no reason why he couldn't. If he had shown that form coming into the draft last season, he would have absolutely got picked up. But they're young fellas, Pommy, these guys, and they all develop at different rates, and that's what Stephen Silvani was such a big. He was adamant that was the case with all these players. The development is never linear, so we might pick ourselves up a bolter here. Who knows?
Well, I mean, there's a good chance. I mean, the mid-season draft, I think, will. I mean, like, there's another guy that I'm hot on, Max Ramsden, who his development this year from the draft last year, in a short period of time, you can see the layers he's added in such a very short amount of time, which, again, adds to your point, because I think if I was a recruiter here, I'd be looking at my Jais, I'd be looking at my Maxes, and then I'd also be looking at my Sam Durdens, who we're probably going to talk a lot about tonight, who have had a bit of negativity in their lives, got close, had a bit of hardship, and then what did they do after? So a good example for me would be Mitch Grigg. Kind of went away. Josh DeLuca's another one. Dominated, but when they got back in the system, didn't quite look the part. Mitch Grigg never got the opportunity. But then I look at Sam Durden and think, this guy's whittled away. It would be very easy to become a real estate agent, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
But he's stuck around. So that would probably turn me on looking at players of what have they done? How have they dealt with hardship? Because AFL is a tough industry to get into.
Yeah, it's a bloody tough cape. It's a brutal sport as well. And I think too, there are some times, and I look at it too as just a simple case of looking at it as, the horse racing analogy. I know I always love to use it, but some horses just don't go for certain trainers, and then a change of scenery, they change trainers, and bang, they just blossom. And that could very well be the case with some of these blokes. And I know that the name being branded about for us is obviously this young Sam Durden. I think, how was he, 24 or 25?
25, yeah. He's not that young.
Yeah, exactly. But he's been, I mean, for us, he's probably young, but he's younger than me, younger than you. So I think the way I look at it now is that he's had time to harden up his body as well. And we know that the Sandfall is not the worst, reserves league. We've seen some hardened bodies come out of there as well. And Corey Durden, his namesake, came out of he played Sandfall as a junior, didn't he? In his 18 year. I know a lot of them do, especially in the waffle as well. So hardened body. And I think, look, the only knock on Sam Durden coming up into the AFL team, which is what a lot of other teams were looking at, is that they weren't sure if he was going to be able to make or translate that form into AFL form. And that's always the risk, isn't it, Pommy?
Oh, spot on. I mean, it's always a risk, but I mean, I would say that there's going to be teams you're going to see this week in this draft that will go two ways. So your Jai Cully would be perfect for Eagles or a North. They can probably afford to wait on a player as well. They're rebuilding. But then you've got an interesting case with Carlton. Carlton could do the same. Do you know what I mean? In theory, they could do. But our team's going to look at Sam Durden's guys who are established. You know that they're probably coming in to fill a hole. They're not long-term prospects. But at the end of the day, that's probably a good thing as well, isn't it? Sam Durden, if you look at it this way, he's Oscar McDonald, because I can't see Carlton keep Oscar McDonald. So worst case, the standard is just be ready to go should an injury occur.
Of course.
If he plays VFL for 2 years, winner.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. I think it's a win-win regardless, because his VFL form or his reserve form has been quite strong. So I think we're going to get a win-win either way with regards to that. So, but I also think too, I mean, there is an opportunity for him. I mean, if you look at our key back stocks, I mean, look, Wiedering, we know, well, touch wood, he's as reliable as can be, I mean, aside from the AC joint, we know that's happened, but before that, he's been, as solid as any player in the competition with regards to his longevity and his reliability. And then you look at the other three, McGovern's made of balsa wood. Marchbank hasn't played for 3 years. And Oscar McDonald's got this stress fracture in his back. So it may be a case of Sam Durden coming in and we think is initially, most people would probably think is the short-term replacement. But he could very well become, he could become a 3 to 4 year player. Who knows? Who knows?
Mate, and it's like Bonafide asks here, is there anyone in the draft better than Cam, Marchie, Dom? I mean, I would say Durden's better than Dom. I hate to say it if you're watching, Dom. You know I love you. And I'd say he's better than Marchie because I don't think you can count Marchie on the list until he's played at least 2 weeks in the VFL. Because at the moment, he had a very good 3 quarters. However, he also had to have a week out. So,
exactly.
And Kemp, I think playing centre half back, I'd trust Durden all day long over Kemp.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that is probably why and why I said a couple of minutes ago that I think it wouldn't surprise me if we do pick up this Sam Durden and he just comes. Well, I don't think he'll come straight into the team against Essendon because you've got to understand the way we play and you've got to sort of pick up that. But it wouldn't surprise me if he plays not even within a month, within 3 weeks of him being picked up. That's provided we actually do pick him up, which all the signs are pointing to that. I'd laugh if we actually didn't get him.
I would say he is as close to a lock as possible.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But then again, there's no such thing as a lock in football, is there? Because, I mean, the clubs will do. Now, obviously, we talked about Jai Cully at the top of the show. Obviously, there was an interview this morning done where they asked about Jai Cully, and Jai Cully alluded that he may not be going to the Eagles, that they've given him donuts, which could have ramifications in the draft. And I actually think it helps Carlton because I think it may force teams to look elsewhere and take over differently. But that would be, and we've seen it in this. I want everyone to go back to the year we took Josh DeLuca. There was a young gentleman called Sam Lawson, who the gentleman who, as Tim P says, dragging this stream out in real time on AFL because he likes talking cow to me. He was hot, was pick one. He was like, Carlton are taking him. If Carlton don't take him, something's gone on. And Sam Lawson ended up undrafted. And I think currently he's working Uber Eats.
Yeah, well, he's still so he's a Coburg boy. And he's still playing with Coburg at the moment. But if you remember leading up into the mid-season draft, I think he hurt his ankle. So he was touted as the bloke that everyone had to get if you had that early pick in the mid-season draft. But I'm certain that he hurt his ankle, and that was the reason for him not being picked up. So as much as a shame it was, he's still playing VFL for Coburg.
Mate, the dreadlocked Adonis as he is. I mean, he definitely looks like the kind of guy that knows a good beetroot burger bar, doesn't he? That's the aspersions on Sam, but no, very good football. So, I mean, there will be some shocks. I mean, just going through my draft preview, I mean, I do actually think if Cal Dawson, I do think you might get some rises. I've got a feeling Brett Turner, I know Cal Tooney doesn't have him been drafted. I do have a feeling that Adelaide may take him at pick 4, given that. So, I mean, it's going to be one of them things. This is the hardest draft to cover because teams like Brady at North Melbourne at the start of the week said they wanted a mature player. Then yesterday he went on SEN and said, we want someone to develop. And then this morning he said he'll go best available. So within the space of 3 days, he's covered all draft pots.
He's gone the Neapolitan ice cream. He's taken a lick of all the flavors. Actually,
God knows what he's doing.
The one I wanted to mention actually was Callum Dawson. If he was to somehow slip down, I don't know how, but do you think that they would take him over a guy like Sam Durden? Because I actually watched this fella play about a fortnight ago when I called the Brisbane versus Williamstown game, and it was the conditions were treacherous, wet weather football. It was like wet and wild theme park, and he showed a lot. He really showed a lot. He's got a bit of talent, this kid. Probably a late developer, I would have thought. But you've got the profile there. He seemed to play. I know he's only 194, but he seemed to play. It's an interesting saying, but he seemed to play a little bit taller than what his height would determine, if that makes sense. He seemed to play like a really tall intercept sort of role for Williamstown. I like what I saw from him. Really like what I
mean,
saw.
he plays at Williamstown with some legends as well. There's Cam Paulson, captain of Williamstown, and also
Harrison McCready.
Finbar O'Dwyer.
Harrison McCready's down there as well, I think.
Carlton Wezzers.
Finbar O'Dwyer played the Franco Baresi role perfectly against Brisbane a couple of weeks ago, mate. He swept up everything in that game.
This is what my life's become.
Just ask Charlie Curnow who his favourite player is, mate. Finbar O'Dwyer is the best player in the world.
Yeah, probably because when he had his knee problem, he was still kicking 8 goals in training.
That's true.
But yeah, I mean, Callum, to answer your question, the only probably knock on him for Carlton now is he's 78 kegs. So I believe this was done pre-playing for Williamstown. So reports are he's about 83 kg. Right. So he's put a bit on. I like him. I do. And I think I'm going to say this. I think Carlton will take Sam Durden with pick 13. And I think that's early for the draft. Yeah. It would be interesting, though, because I had Callum Dawson in my first preview sliding. And I think he may slide. I just got a feeling they'll see that 78 kegs and be like, it's going to probably take a preseason for us. Yeah. I wouldn't be against it because one thing that Callum Dawson does, and this is something that Carlton, when Plowman plays, Callum Dawson naturally comes from the side of contests. And you saw Mason Cox, you saw Ollie Henry, all them players, they killed Carlton because they just thought you marked the ball in front. Callum Dawson's natural is to hang back, attack the ball from the side. You know, the old David Beckham getting round the back and swinging your balls in. This is what Callum Dawson does.
Good analogy, Pom. Well played.
I covered a lot of bases with that one gag.
You did. Yeah, very, very well done. Yeah, Ali G and David Beckham together in that interview.
Could you get more Pom?
Are they going to get a wriggle on with this thing, or what's going on here? All I see is
I don't know. We've been 15 minutes in, and Cal Tooney is now starting to answer questions like, "Have you ever dyed your hair?" Like, you know, I don't know I don't really know what's going on. They're still deliberating. I mean, this is one of the things, and we were talking earlier about raising the draft age. I'm surprised the AFL has never looked at having, because they love marketing, like they've managed to talk for 20 minutes about nothing. Why they don't make a feeder league between 18 and 21 that is full-time, that's televised? Because when you look at the Americans, it's very interesting, isn't it, that they love their draftees.
Oh,
you know what I mean? They get really excited. A good friend of mine works in scouting for NBA, and he texts me about 14, 15-year-olds. I remember Jan Moran. He texted me and said he knows I'm in a dynasty league in NBA. And he was like, there's this 15-year-old kid, Pom, going to blow the NBA away. And I'm like, mate, he's a child. And he was like, nah, he's got it. Wouldn't that be great if we had that in the AFL? Because like Sam Walsh, we only heard about him in the draft year. Matt Rowell, you only heard about him in the draft year. Wouldn't it be great if we had a league where we got excited about these people?
Yeah, exactly. I think it would all come to do with resources and expenses, wouldn't it? I think at the end of the day, but you know, and look, mate, you look at how the Americans go off with the college basketball, crazy. Like it's madness, mate, the way they go crazy with the college stuff. So, you know, I don't think there's anything better than seeing a young fella come through the ranks and, you know, take the league by storm as they do in the NBA and you know, those American sports and the NFL for that matter as well. So whether or not it's something they look at to try to prepare, if they don't want to change the draft age, to try to prepare, you know, footballers for, you know, to be, you know, a little bit more ready when they actually do come into the fold. That might even come in, you know, it might even come in with like scholarships at school from potentially year 7 onwards. I know the AFL does do that, but I don't think they probably don't do enough of it, if anything. So, and then there's
it would be nice, wouldn't it? Because they talk about Caulfield private school, Geelong private school.
Yeah.
If they did that, I mean, how good would it be though? Like Timmy P talks about it here, an increase in the broadcasting rights and stuff. Imagine though, like you watch the Americans, they get like 80,000 in a stadium, drinking beers, cheering. Like, mate, I'm all about that. If it's beers, sport, chanting, and the potential to glass someone for banter, count me in.
Yeah, it's you've ticked off all the English boxes, haven't you?
I'm in. I'll be front row.
That's all 4 legs of the quaddie.
Mate, I tell you, And I mean, this is going to be taken out of context, but if it also involves kids, obviously in the analogy of football, drafted,
Yes.
that covered my 5 bases.
Yeah, exactly. And we know what the other 5 bases are, but we'll save that for a different day.
Yeah, after the 9 o'clock watershed.
Yeah.
I mean, Cal Toomey stood up now and he's pointing at pictures
At the draft,
of
here we
football
go.
teams.
Okay. I think he's going to tell the weather soon by the looks of it.
You know what? I don't understand this. Going back onto the American type things as well, like James Hutt, my Scottish mate. Good day to you, legend.
Hart, James Hart, the man, mate. He
Good
gets
day,
around
Wee
the
Bonnie.
JP. He's coming to Australia, isn't he?
He is, yeah. Me and Hutty will go live with Paolo in a bar somewhere. We'll integrate him into Aussie culture.
Like, God help him and God help everyone if that happens.
It's great,
when that happens.
But it would be great, wouldn't it? Because like you're seeing this now, and we've just had some highlights from 200 years ago, right? Do you know what I mean? Which I don't understand. Like you watch the American stuff, they would be now talking about Jai Cully, Callum Dawson. Here's the highlights. This is what he's about. This is where he'll fit. These are the teams we think he goes to. There's none of this. It's just literally Cal Toomey giving me the weather and telling me what West Coast logo looks like.
Oh, the weather in West Coast today is going to be fine and sunny, 21 degrees. The weather in North Melbourne's going to be whatever Tasmania's weather is.
Hey, Matty boy, I'm with you here. We should take him to Rebs.
Take him to Rebs. That'll be a baptism of fire.
Mate, I've been to Rebs once, and honestly, very peculiar place. Like sometimes I think the murky world of AFL Twitter is weird. It's gotten out on Rebs.
Yeah, Twitter can be a bit of a cesspool, but I tell you what, Revs has got a couple of links on the Twitter cesspool just quietly.
There's a Melbourne folklore. I don't know if Chat can help me out. Matty boy seems to be a Revs expert as well. Right. I just want to know, is it true? Evidently there was a dead body.
Yes. That's correct. Behind the couch. Behind the couch for like 2 days. That's
my kind of bar. My kind of bar. Well, I mean, the draft, people are asking when the draft starts. It officially started at 6:30, but we've had 22 minutes.
Still going. Can we get this fella in, Nick Minute? He's got a good question here from a young Preston Bullants player, Mutaz Al-Noor. Yeah, like him a lot. Real athletic type. He was there last year as well, I believe, and he's been pretty good for them this year. And there we go. Pommy's got all the stats up there for you. So I like this guy. I don't think we're going to be the ones to get him. But if he did fall and Sam Durden or someone else that we were targeting was taken, he could be the guy. But the problem I think with him is he's still very raw and young. But he's a very, very athletic type, and very courageous too.
He's got it all. He's got it all.
Yeah.
And you've seen, I mean, a good thing as well is Northern Bullants are definitely a team that are probably under the cosh at the minute in VFL. They're an interim side, aren't they? And to see how he stood up, I mean, you look at his numbers: 6.3 marks, 2.6 tackles. I mean, 5.6 rebound 50s, 3 score launches. He's a good size as well. And he 192, 83 kgs. For me, he's definitely someone who, dare I say this on a Carlton chat, he is an upgrade of Plowman.
There you go. Hui, there you go, Pommy with the bombshell. Is that really hard to do an upgrade on Plowman?
Oh God,
he's been all right the last couple of weeks. So I must admit.
I know. I just think my only knock on Plowman. I'm not going to knock him because I do like him. And I think he's doing a very good job. I just think that El Noya gives you that bit of attacking prowess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That, he's as you say, defensively, but he's got a bit of je ne sais quoi.
How many? Yeah, exactly. How many rebound 50s did you say he averaged?
5.6.
Okay, yeah. So that's probably the modern day intercept type of defender. That's really the that's really the way you want to mold your defense around. And but that's what Alex Rance was. We saw Alex Rance was a good defender, but he was also able to rebound and score launch and create opportunity going the other way too. So, that's something that they need to look at as well if they're looking to pick up when they're looking to pick up a defender too. So, speaking of which, hopefully they get a wriggle on with this. Good Lord.
And it would be interesting to see, like you say, there is a chance, I think, I think he might go to Sydney. I know Sydney are really into Forkhead.
Okay.
I mean, sorry, Geelong. I think Geelong are really into Forkhead. But
yep.
And that's because he plays down there. I've got him, Elnor, being around there, which I think they'd be foolish not to take him. But if he doesn't go there, I could see him actually being on the table when we pick 13. And I do think it was interesting today. I was listening to Nick Austin and he said, we won't be distracted by the policy we've got. So he was real firm that they've got names as Ugar, $15 donation, good Muslim brother, Elnor. Let's get him. It'd be interesting to see if Nick Austin's a man of his word. If Elnor is there, does he do it?
Well, that's it's always tempting, isn't it? But if Nick Austin has said we're not going to waver from our list management strategy, well, we'll see what happens. It'd be tempting to take though if he's there.
Mate, it would be. Greg Whittaker. Haven't released many inside calls over the past few years, but the general Sandful mix suggests Balladen is going early.
Okay.
You see, I think he will. You see, I've got him going very late. I think the AFL overrate mature age players. They do it every year, and the AFL, no one cares. Do you know what I mean? Everyone goes young. But I could see him heading to GWS if it's true that he doesn't get picked up and they don't go Cully, WA. I could quite easily see that'll cause a huge shift in change. And Balladen go early. But I do think Balladen will stay in the system purely because he's 22. I don't think anyone will pick him up purely because he's only been out of it for 6 months. And yes, he's improved. But if I was a list manager, I'd be like, only 6 months ago, he wasn't good enough. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's a fair point. Geez, they've done a long story here on this young fella from the Preston Bullants. By golly, geez, you hope he gets picked after all that. Yeah, you hope Mataz gets picked.
Bryce asks, if you nominate and there's a second nomination, can they nominate at the end of the year? Yes, they can.
Yeah, that's correct.
This one is exclusive for recent draftees or the AFL makeup.
Hang on, we've got action. Hold on, have we got some action? We see people in the studio. Hang on. Have we got something? Oh, no.
No, he's just telling us about the computer system.
Damn it.
Josh Klebs with the second pick. I think they will do, but what Nick Austin has alluded to is they won't pick up for the sake of it. So
of course,
they have a list of targets. You'd presume that when I last spoke to the club in the Skype meeting for the sponsors event, Nick Austin, he was firm, Ash Hansen, was that they had 3 people, right? And that was it. Yeah. And there was no reason to change. They said they'd pass on the first pick if he wasn't available as well.
Yeah.
So that says to me that that's probably changed because an hour later, Wheaterin died. And I imagine Nick Austin was like, oh, fuck. But I think they will take 2 picks in this draft, and I'm going to give you a spoiler. See if anyone can work out who I think the second guy is. He's somewhere on screen with us now.
He's somewhere on the screen with us now. Have a look, guys. Does anyone know who that player is? You were hot on this, Pom. You were hot on this, and if it does eventuate, I'll make kudos. I'll always give you the kudos, but if this does eventuate, let's see if anyone in the live chat can pick up who the person in the top right-hand corner is.
I can't wait.
Pom at fullback. We might need you at fullback the way things are going.
Give me a few points and get him out there. Play him at fullback, says Matty and Charlie Kerner for PM. I'm only 6'2". Not many people believe this, but everyone who's met me gets shocked that I am actually as tall as I am. So I'm probably undersized. I could maybe take Plowman's job.
Yeah, potentially. I think it's because through a computer screen, you don't exactly look huge. Oh, here we go. It's coming through now. JGM. There we go. There it is. Not sure about him.
Jesse Glass-McAllister. You know what? All I'm saying is when he signs for Carlton, not Glass-McAllister, call him Class-McAllister. I'll tell you.
Oh, God. Oh, he's looked okay at VFL level this year. He probably fits into the realm of player that we need because we've seen Pitterneck go down and we've seen Harry go down with the meniscus as well. So, he could potentially fill a hole there if we need to. And let's not forget too, he did play for the Footscray reserves after he was delisted by Carlton a couple of years ago and actually looked okay when he was playing for Footscray's reserves. He actually kicked a nice goal on the weekend too. So I think the other facet of his game, because remember he was drafted as a backman under Sauce and then was turned into a forward down at Footscray. And now he's adding ruck into his game as well. So he looks that ruck forward type of player, alternating between those two, between ruck and forward.
He is, and I mean Brodie Marston. He moves like an A300. he does have the turning circle of my Nana,
the Queen Mary.
Parkin, I'll be honest with you.
Queen Mary.
But I think he's the kind of guy that you get in because Carlton don't have forward coverage, and just throw him there. He knows the system.
Yeah.
And to answer
you just said that too, Pommy. He knows the system. That's one big thing that we've seen at VFL level this year, which is fantastic to see.
To answer a couple of questions, Josh Clabs, why would they pass on the second? Well, I mean, genuinely, a lot of clubs, like say Sydney have been adamant if their primary target isn't there, they'll pass in this draft. So could be salary cap, but it could also be that a lot of these players have nominated terms as well. So you can have 6, 12, 18. They've closed the loophole with front loading and stuff like that. Now it's a general figure. So teams can't manipulate the draft. This draft is manipulated, though. It is heavily manipulated. But that's to answer your question. It's mainly like, why would you just pick someone up for the sake of it?
Exactly.
They can bank salary. Remember that they can bank salary. Carlton did it a couple of years ago, which gave them technically an extension on their salary cap for 1 year only. So there's also that to it. And the other one is Liam Jones. Liam Jones is ineligible for this draft.
Here
for
we
two
go.
reasons.
Well, sorry, Pommy, we're in, but go again. Yeah, go again. Go. Yeah. Jake Hulley's just been picked up.
One, he isn't nominated, and two, because he retired, he's ineligible for 12 months.
Correct.
So
that's correct.
Don't worry about him. And the first cab off the rank, no surprise. I knew Jay Cully was throwing us a bone. Jay Cully is in, and great pickup for the Eagles, really.
Well, they need some sort of solace on the year that they've had. He'll probably come straight into their team, to be honest.
Mate, supreme footballer. Anyone who's seen any of him, Paolo referenced it at the start of the show, playing for the Colgate team. He scored 2 goals in a quarter, ended up with 4.5. Like, the kid is an absolute jet, and probably, in my opinion, might be the Tim Kelly that they hoped.
Yeah, and you look at the size of him as well as a midfielder, his height. He's that real new prototype midfielder, in that sort of, not saying that he is, but, the height of Cripps, the height of Fife, those type of players, and he can kick a goal too, which is what we look for in midfielders now.
Mate, spot on. Good Langwarren boy as well. He actually had his last shift. I mean, how weird it is for him is this time last night, he was starting his shift at Charcoal Chicken.
Oh, really?
And he had his last shift last night and said goodbye to everyone. So interesting that. I mean, just shows you this guy's life is going to change forevermore.
Callum Dawson. Bang.
Pick 2 is in. Old Paulo's boy, no surprise here. Very excited here as well because my first 2 picks have gone ahead to plan. Yeah. Love it when a plan comes together. But Cal Dawson comes in, and Paulo, you're a big fan of this kid, aren't you?
Yeah, I think he's going to be a really good footballer. And there are some highlights there if you're seeing on the draft of him in that game against Brisbane a couple of weeks ago. And I was really taken aback by him. Like, I know all players have to be committed to the contest, but I love the way he just had so much poise and had a lot of time and space with ball in hand, especially in those it was just brutal. Like, the conditions were just terrible. And I think the one thing you want to look at for defenders is their positioning as well, and that's a big thing too. And I thought his positioning in that game against Brisbane was fantastic. And and I think too, I know to draw back on our players, but I think you look at a guy like Brodie Kemp in the VFL who's been slung down back. There's a game he played against North Melbourne a couple of weeks ago where it looked like he barely touched the ball. He only had 9 disposals, but our team dominated that day. But his positioning was just so sound. It just stopped North from getting inside forward 50. So you look at the way defenders defend too, and positioning is also so important to stopping opposition teams from taking the option further afield. So hopefully that's something that Durden can bring into if we decide to go that way.
Mate, spot on. I couldn't agree more. And a second pick is in, and tell you what, Essendon gone bold here. I thought they'd go Carmichael, who's probably my favourite person in the draft, but bet your ass to a bound dance, Carmichael goes next pick. But Massimo D'Ambrosio, have I done that right, Paolo?
Massimo D'Ambrosio.
That's why we've got the Italian here. Help me out. But,
well, he's a Western Jets product, is he?
Mate, superstar as well. Yeah. I mean, he's highly rated. Got a bit of an injury at the moment, but that's why some people thought he'd slide. I thought he would do, but Essendon have gone hard there. And like you say, very talented footballer, modern day footballer. He's torn it up before he got injured. Western Jets, like you say, made his debut this year as well for the Tigers. Great get.
Yeah, I called him in a NAB League game against Gold Coast Academy a couple of weeks ago too, and he's a real slick footballer across a halfback flank as well, and real nice ball user as well. I thought, I know it's obviously one sample size that game that I saw there, but I like what I saw with him. And he's a tough bugger too, real tough bugger for his size. So that's the polar opposite of what Essendon have been this year.
Mate, Spawn, and I mean, he's also maybe someone I thought pre-injury that if he slid, Carlton would look at, because he plays high half back, but he's also an elite wingman. And my bet is right. Brett Turner has gone earlier than expected.
There you go.
To Adelaide. This kid is a real exciting footballer. I think he could be a little steal in the draft. He could be. He's very hard as a cat's head, as most Sandful players are. Does play with Sam Durden. And to answer Greg's question, Sam Durden's got one of the highest kicking efficiencies of tall defenders in State League, 84%, and that's 78% by foot. But Brett Turner, real good get for Adelaide. Surprised they've probably gone another midfielder, but
yeah. That was the first thing that I think that there was talk today that they were going to target local fellas, and it was the midfield that came up, which is interesting too. Because I think they lack the tall defensive stocks that they need to stop opposition. But if that's the way Nix has decided to go to bolster the midfield, I reckon they've found a beauty there. I like what I've seen from him.
Mate, absolute brilliant. And
next
tell you what, they said they were going to go tall, and Wade Dirksen. Now, if you're looking for a ready-made key forward, the Dirkmeister is probably in it. 2.3 goals this year. He's killing it in Waffle. Great selection by them.
Yeah, he's got a lovely kick on him as well. So he's another one of these blokes, I think, too, that if you look at guys who are going to develop at an older age and continue to get better as they as they grow, he's that type of player. And I think he can also put on a little bit more size as well. He's only, what is he not? I think he's 19, or is he 20? I think he's 20. He's 20 years old.
So he's only a bubba.
Plenty of scope. And we see what happens with these key forwards and key position players. Once they're in the system, they can develop at a rate of knots. And we saw it with Harry. He didn't look absolutely amazing at VFL level, and then bang, he just explodes.
Mate, it's interesting. As the picks in, you expect Hawthorn here to say, I'll put my neck on the line. They won't buy into the Carmichael hype. They'll probably they will take blank, guaranteed. But Wade Dirksen, interesting facts about him. Looks like the romance lead in every high school movie. Look at him. Look at Dirksen.
He's the quarterback of every high school football team.
Mate, he is every American sweetheart's first.
Look who the
Max Ramsden.
Wow. Wow.
Tell you what, the Hawks needed a ruck, and they have got probably for me my favourite player in this year's draft.
Yeah.
Absolute jet is this kid. Said last night with Terry, imagine if they had a kid, Pitternet and TDK.
Yeah, I did hear that.
And I'll tell you what, he's a very, very accomplished footballer, huge scope for growth, developed massively this year. Modern day ruckman, they've got themselves a jet.
Yeah, I think the one thing I noticed with him, I think you look at these blokes that are 202 centimeters, and some of them cannot be, some aren't mobile, and they walk around like they're a bit, for lack of a better phrase, a bit dopey. Like the ball hits the deck, and you're like, oh, here we go. But he's a player that I was hoping he was never going to slip, was he? He was never ever going to slip. But you have a fantasy with these Sandringham players, don't you, Pommy?
I've got a soft spot for them through my father-in-law and the work he did with them. But yeah, I do love Sandy. I thought he was going to go to Gold Coast, so I'd love it if the AFL was legit and they take Blanc. But Oscar Folkhead, that's probably going to piss off a few clubs. He joins Gold Coast. This kid here is like most players you see who play around that level. He is an absolute little ball of tricks. He's got a hell of a lot of tricks. He's like a school clown. He's got all the tricks, man, and great get. Really fits Gold Coast as well because he likes the ball played in quickly. Great get for them.
Do you think that he would be, well, judging on what you've done and what we expected, he's probably a bit of a bolter in this mid-season draft by the looks of it.
I think he is, and I think the fact that Carmichael has slipped is very interesting because, like, you'd imagine now Port are looking and going, who do I pick? Do I pick Carmichael? Do I pick Bauer? Like, they've got a lot of South Australian talent that they probably didn't think would be there.
Exactly. And who have they gone for? Oh, okay,
They've
this
got
is interesting.
Tickle.
Wow. Ooh. Here we go.
Well, there was a lot of talk that this guy here is probably the best ruck in the draft that's ready today. Port were quite adamant they wanted to get some coverage for him. And get some coverage in that area.
Yep.
He's there, and great pick.
You look at who Port have lost. They lost Laddams to Sydney, and Lysette has gone down with the shoulder as well. So they are a little bit thin in that department too. So it's understandable that they'd go down that path too. And he's a local boy as well.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one thing about Bryn as well is he's really, really works both ends of the ground hard. Really does. So he's very similar to Lysette for them, that he works hard. And also he's quite sneaky when he slots in. He's one of them forwards, a bit like Pitternet for us, who the ball just seems to gravitate when he rests in the forward line as well. So he's as good to go as you get. Great pick by Port.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you look at the WA teams as well, and do you think that they're probably set for that type of position? You would say you look at Fremantle, they've got Lobb and Darcy in there, and then you look at West Coast. I know Natanui may potentially be on the move, but he's there. And they've got a host of other rucks that can go in there as well. So probably fits the bill when you look at it.
Mate, it's a great pick. And I'll tell you what, I hate to say it, but if Swoop Luke is in chat, Collingwood will be very excited. They've taken probably, in my opinion, close to the best player in this draft. Josh Carmichael, absolute. He could have the Newcomb effect of this league, like very early, in my opinion.
Very interesting.
25 touches, 4.9 marks, 4.5 tackles, a goal a game. Nowadays, goal-kicking mids, they're as rare as rocking horse poo, aren't they? As we always say, this kid is good to go, and he has been a very good performer in the state system.
Hate to say it, but they've got their hands on, I think, a ripper, to be honest, which frustrates the living daylights out of me. But I think it's an area that Collingwood need. I think it's an area that they've really need to look at, because I don't think the Brown boys there have been too particularly good through the midfield for them in the last sort of couple of months. And the likes of Adams and those type of fellas are not getting any younger either. Sidebottom has shifted out of there. Pendlebury has shifted out of there. So I think it makes sense for them to get a type of player like that, a midfielder, who's going to rack up the ball and potentially kick goals. But I wish nothing but misery upon him as he plays in the black and white Guernsey.
Mate, I'm with you. He's the worst thing as well for a Carlton fan because he's a bit of both. He's Essendon and Pies.
Great. Love it.
And Jacob Bauer goes to Richmond.
Yep.
Huge get for them.
Don't care.
Yeah, Jacob Bauer ends up there. He's a guy that was hotly contested after. And it's going to be interesting here as well because you've got Sydney there on the clock. I would suspect one of their targets, this is just a POM guess, is actually there.
I wouldn't be surprised if they go for honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't go for that Al Noor Mataz. I reckon they'll go for Mataz. I think they need a defender. I really think they're in desperate need of a defender. Oh no, here we go. Hugo. They've gone with
Tell you what, Hugo Hall, he is a very, very good acquisition for them. He's been really, his numbers aren't impressive, but tell you what, he's a very Jack Martin role. Very selfless, does get in the goals, but loves to link up play. Real strong sandy boy as well. But he works both ends of the ground. He likes to really get high up, really help and link between the midfield and the forward. So for me, great acquisition, and he fits straight into their system.
And this is just typical of Sydney, isn't it, Pommy? Go out and get the young kid and just back your system in to be able to develop him into a bona fide footballer. How many times have we seen Sydney do this for the last 10 years? I mean, John Longmire would have to be one of, if not the best developers of young talent, I think, in the AFL with regards to senior coaches. I think he does a phenomenal job. And, I mean, truth be told, who knows? As an 18-year-old, this young kid could be anything. And, part of the Sydney system, we know how well they develop their young kids.
Mate, exactly. Charlie Kerno here asks James Rowbottom look like. He's looks very similar. Very similar. And Carlton are 2 picks away. Is Sam Durden related to Corey? Distant cousins, according to Mr. Corey Durden himself, but they didn't know until the mistake BT had. So interesting there.
There you go. You learn something new every day, don't you? Even when mistakes are made.
Well, there it is. And Geelong just about to select. And this is a bolter. And I think this is in reaction direct to Mr. Oscar Folkhead. Not been there. Zane Williams leaves to Geelong. And this kid here is probably the perfect accompaniment to Tyson Stengel.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think it's something that we look at Geelong too, and I don't think they're going to be looking for guys in that mid-20, the mid-20 range. They need to get some youngsters into that team too, and I think he fits the bill too. I mean, I think they've tried that sort of smallish forward experiment with the likes of Dalhouse and Graham Myers. And I don't think it's really worked with those type of guys. So it makes sense that they've gone for this young fella.
And he's a kid that kind of really is one way, real aggressive, knows where the goals are. Kind of a bit like a Cyril Rioli type, which if Nick Wishart's watching, he'll love that comparison because I said I hate these comparisons when they say Cyril Rioli. But
there we go. There it is.
And the worst kept secret in football, Samuel Durden.
Welcome.
He's our boy, 25 years old. To 84% kicking efficiency, 5.5 rebound 50s, 5.4 marks, just under 15 touches, and watched a lot of him at Glen Eagles. He is literally, don't take me the wrong way that he's here. He's the same person. But of all the Sandful and all the mature defenders, identical role to Jacob Wheaterin. Identical role.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, we don't expect these type of players to come in and play like Jacob Wiedering. That's not what we're saying. But if you're going to go like for like position in the way that the way that Sam Durden does play, he was the obvious pick. So welcome to Carlton, young man. Welcome to Flags.
I wonder what number they give him. I have a sneaky suspicion it's number 47, which is Josh DeLuca's number. So if you're like me and you've got 20,000 Carlton shirts with number 47 on, get them out of the wardrobe.
No, it's a smart pick by us. It's the obvious pick, and I think Vossi always alludes to it when when he's playing, and when the team is sort of they're going through those lasers that you've got to stop looking under the carpet and actually look at the obvious, and that's what they've done there. So experienced fella. He's going to come in, hopefully, and play this, this defensive intercept lockdown role that we so desperately need, given Weeders has gone down. So, or if not, he's going to play a fantastic role in the reserves regardless. But I get an inkling we're going to see a fair bit of him at AFL level. I
agree, yeah. St Kilda have just passed, which is no surprise because about 4 guys I thought they'd take.
Yep.
Now we've got off the board, so pure Saints. Sorry, my wife. Jonah, all these guys need to do is come in and shut down tolls. Don't need to do Wiedering numbers, just do a job. I think that's fair. And I think the wonderful thing about Durden is he loves intercepting and he loves turning defence into attack. So I think that's brilliant for him. And I think that's a great. I think he's not going to have much pressure, but I think his role doesn't have to change too much.
No, exactly right. And I think the one thing, it's the third point that you see there, the disposal efficiency, his ball use by foot. Look, I think that will naturally come down with the pressure and intensity of AFL football, but it's good to see that, he's able to use the ball well when given time and space too. And that other stat at the end there, rebound 50s. What have you by any chance got? I don't know if it's a stat we can find at sample level, but his score launches from that level. Have you by any chance got that?
2.6.
Okay. So, that's something that, we obviously is part of the modern game too. And I think that's something that our defenders are looking to, to continue to do as well. So welcome to the club, son. Welcome to the club.
Well, welcome to the club. And looks like Connor Ballenden as Pom 40 be a slider. We know all the media said he was a top 10. He's not there. And Fremantle, they've just selected Sebik Kyuk, who we haven't actually got a graphic on, but we do know a bit about him. Very, very, very raw project from them. So, I mean, interesting that they've done that. But Fremantle have obviously identified in this stage of the draft now, take some punts, but there is some good players on that board at the moment. There is some very good players. You've got Vossi there. I expect Blanco will go. There's Mitch O'Neill. There's Jai Menzies, Ethan Grace. Funny that El Nor's still there as well.
Yeah, really interesting. I mean, they did a whole piece on him coming up into it,
It's your fault. You cursed him. You said, how funny would it be if he didn't get picked up?
I know. Well, yeah, I mean, they've done the whole piece on him and no one's picked him up yet, but hopefully he does. But the one thing, I know Vossi said he wasn't, that they weren't looking at Casey, but that'd be some sort of story, wouldn't it?
It is, yeah. And all the teams are passing now, which is interesting. Okay. North Melbourne have passed, which I'm really enjoying, who are Carlton? Let's have a chat in the audience. Now Carlton are guaranteed to get a toll. There's about 5 left that are good enough if they want to. We've got Ash in chat, whose mail's usually spot on. He says that it's Will Hayes.
Oh, okay. There we go. Well, that would look. What Will Hayes was. Well, he hasn't played the last couple of weeks, so I don't know what's going on there. But he's been phenomenal at the VFL level, Poppy. Phenomenal. His running power is elite.
Mate, it's interesting. And John are here. Why did North pass? Weird, because Jai Menzies here. This would be a kid if Carlton didn't have a crisis. I'd love us to bring in. He's a prop. He would really complement Durden and Owies. very similar to Durden, and he's a hungry little bugger. But this guy is a natural goal kicker as well. He loves it. 3.5 tackles, 2.9 of them are inside 50 tackles a game.
We know you love that.
He's an animal.
We know you love the tackles inside 50.
But Jai Menzies, we'll call him the white tipper.
Adelaide have passed. Okay, interesting. So Hawthorn have got the next pick. And where do we come up? We come up in the next, so after Hawthorn, what do we pick? 22.
Yeah, so we're 3 picks away, and Hawthorn are on the clock. I'd expect them to take this gentleman here, James Blank, and he's a very, very good footballer. And we know Sam Mitchell is a huge advocate of int. Does that say? Yeah, there you
go. Pommy. On the money, as usual.
We know Mitchell is a huge advocate of recruiting inside, and I've been fortunate enough to be at Hawthorn events when Sam Mitchell's talked before he was coach, and he was huge on. He said that he thinks the big staple of success is having a VFL program that gives clear pathways and purpose to what they're doing. So I think that is huge. That's something that I hope we build, that we can attract top-end talent and say, here you are, where you can play. You can play. If you do well, we guarantee you back here.
Yeah, exactly right, which is something that I don't think is something we've ever had. Maybe there was a little bit of that under in the Bolton days, but not in the Teague days. There was just no connectedness at all between the VFL and AFL teams. And I think you alluded to it, Pommy, as well, that's something that the AFL and VFL teams are starting to do.
Carlton are on the board, and I'll tell you what, someone just asked.
Hayes! Hey, here it is.
Here he is. I didn't do a draft profile for Will Hayes. I'm a bad man because
we don't need to.
He has been superb, hasn't he?
Mate, maybe that is why they put him under wraps for the last 2 weeks. They're like, okay, we know what you've done. We don't want you to get injured. Let's keep you under wraps for the last fortnight, because he hasn't played the last fortnight, Pommy.
Mate, big shout out to Ash as well. He was very confident in this one. So great mail there, Ash. Good work, mate. But what I don't understand about that, and this is just my reservation of it, right? I feel like we've just recruited a player that, in my opinion, is the best player in the draft for who he is, right? By miles. Killing it in the VFL.
Yep.
I don't understand the pick, though, because I'd say this is the place we could have 3 or 4 injuries in his position and still be okay.
Yeah, the wing. Yeah, I get what you mean. I 100% get what you mean. But look, maybe they're looking at it and thinking, well, he can come in and play a role immediately on that wing, because I think we saw its deficiencies on the weekend, Pommy, with side bottom getting out, with that width and really, really, really hurting us. So maybe he comes straight in and plays a role straight away. Could be the case. Yeah. And maybe this is evidence of the pathways that we're starting to create, Pommy.
Well, it's funny. We just said about Sam Mitchell. I mean, one thing I'll say about Will Hayes is a balance. Is what the AFL would call a balanced midfielder, can play inside and out, which, interesting enough, if you had to build a winger to play the opposite position of Will Hayes, of O'Brien, it's Will Hayes.
Yeah,
likes to play on the ball, natural player on the wing as well. One of my favourite players at the Eagles, me and Paolo have talked about this at length as well, I really rated him in the Doggies. And I think you'll be able to correct me if I'm wrong here, but his dad's the horse racing trainer, and he actually turned down a big paying job to actually have a chance at the AFL.
Yeah, his dad moved to Hong Kong. So his dad is David Hayes, champion horse trainer, who trained over in Hong Kong many years ago, was a premiership trainer there, came back to Australia, won a heap of races here again, and now he's moved back to Hong Kong And there was, I'd assume there was an opportunity for Will to go over with his old man, but he's knocked that back. And his two brothers are actually leading the Hayes family training regime in Australia, in Victoria, in JD Hayes and Ben. So he comes from successful stock, put it that way.
He does, and I think this is a great theory here by David. This will be interesting for Cotters for Noons. You know what? I think it might be the end is near for Jack Noons, because I'll tell you what, you look at Will Hayes, how he plays. Will Hayes and Noons are almost the same player at VFL, and I do know for facts that one of the code names they use, Will Hayes has Noons' code name.
Okay. There you go. Very, very, very interesting. I would love to see his exact GPS numbers, because I feel that his running power is absolutely immense as well. I think, and he also did train with us during the preseason too. So that was obviously another sign as well, that we were very interested in him too. So, mate, good luck to him, and shout out to my mate Rhino Callum, who's good mates with Will. Ryan strapped a Caulfield Cup winner for the family a couple of years ago. So he's in cahoots with young Will Hayes. So I'll get the mail off him if anyone needs it.
Well, I mean, it's good. I mean, before we wrap up the show, we'll just spend 5 minutes talking about him and someone throw it in. I mean, Will Hayes, absolute. He has been a jet, hasn't he?
Oh, mate, he has been phenomenal at VFL. I did not expect for him to be doing what he did with us at VFL level. And I think it's kudos to Daniel O'Keefe as well. I think he's been a fantastic coach for us at VFL level, and he's developing these boys at a rate of knots. And he's also brought in, if you look at the VFL list of boys he's brought in, Pommy, I think we've got some pathways there. You can see that these blokes have been brought in, and a lot of them can play. It's probably the best we've been for God knows how long. And, you know, these VFL list of boys don't look out of place against the AFL bodies. So, look, it's an exciting time to be part of the football club. And, again, as you said, before we go off, well done to both Sam Durden and Will Hayes. Both obviously deserve their spots in the team. And, you know, they're on the list now, and let's bloody back them in. Let's back them in, man.
Mate, I'm with you. I mean, to answer some questions there as well, why didn't Balladen get picked? My only theory on Balladen not being picked is this time next week, right? This time next week, I mean next year, the draft, it is littered with key forwards. I think 25% of the top 30 by my calculations are actually key forwards. So maybe that's an indication that Carlton are going to, with their first pick, actually take the superstar. But I mean, Will Hayes, 33 touches, 5 tackles. Do you know what I mean? 5 marks here. A staggering 612 meters gained per game.
That's
you
insane.
Are talking about an A-list footballer. But just before we go, shout out to Paolo, who cursed El Nor's AFL career.
Don't write it on me. That was purely the AFL media team's fault, because they did a whole piece on him, and the poor bugger didn't get picked.
Do you know what I mean? 22-minute fucking documentary, and the poor cunt's fun. Honestly, Elnor, if you're watching, mate, when I was at university, I was like you, waiting by the phone, hoping for the call, and it never came. So do it. And Big Red, I'll take this as a compliment. I didn't realize Pom knew anything about football. I've seen him act like a nuff.
Hey, let me tell you, and I'm not saying this just because you're a very good friend of mine, but you are a genius when it comes to all this analytical stuff. And I'll tell you what, I don't think there's anyone in AFL media, let alone the fan content, that does the work you do and understands and analyzes the game the way you do. And, you know, you should be, you know I commend you countless times every week with the work you do, but it's simply phenomenal. Mate, this is the game that I've lived and breathed for 28 years of my life, and you're teaching me stuff about it that I didn't even know about.
I'm deeply humbled, my friend. It's an honor to work with you and go into battle with you. And I'm just offended people think I'm a fucking nuff.
Well, I think we all are to a certain extent, but you're not.
Actually, fan cams. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I watch my fan cams back, and I actually fucking feel sick. But honestly, thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully, this was more entertaining than the AFL one. I was listening to it in my headset, and I was bored. At least we talked a little bit graphically here. So thank you very much to Paolo. Make sure you watch the repeat of Jumper Punch. It was entertaining and Paolo lost the plot an hour in.
I did lose the plot. It was more along the lines of, look, and just before, I know it's not on this, but I'm not having a rip. I'm not ripping Paddy Dow. I'm more just complaining about the people who have continued to, insist that he needs to get a game. He needs to get a game. So anyway, great night. Welcome to the club, Sam Durden and Will Hayes. And let's beat those mongrel Bombers next week, Pommy.
Let's smash them bastards. Do you know what I mean? Let's make sure we get some abuse going Essendon's way. We'll build it up. But thank you very much, guys and girls. Much love to you all. Obviously, stay tuned. There'll be reviews of these boys and might get Paolo out so we can big up Will Hayes.
Absolutely. Enjoy, guys.
Cheers, guys.